Thank you, true brother and sister, for that exciting dance. Did you all enjoy the tempo or the concha?
We went back to the village, and did you know in Melanesian Sign Language, the conch shell or tabu is the official indicator or marker for Western Great Province?
Wow, that's an interesting fact. Friends, moving along, here in Papua New Guinea, we love to tell stories. Isn't that right, sisters? So it's common to see families storing around dinner time or the fireplace or any opportunity that they have to do so. So Brother Ian, what kind of stories will we be next?
Well, I think we're eager to tell some stories about the history of the truth here in Papua New Guinea and how it has made progress over the years. Now here, Brother Kutunat Jack of the branch office is a good storyteller. And I think he's going to be accompanied by Brother Kakapiam, also serving on the branch office to tell us some of these stories. Well, let's call them upon, because we know you're going to surely enjoy this emotional experience. Please enjoy the story.
Thank you everybody and welcome. As you can see, this is a brothers club. We didn't have any sisters, but anyway, we try our best to invite one sister one day.
I think you're not that correct. There's also a sister who helped in the way
Okay. So, as you can see, these brothers have been faithful serving Jehovah for many years. And they're still serving faithfully in full-time service. So we're happy to have them, to interview them tonight. And we also want to thank you for coming all the way. I know there are many missionaries around who have helped Papua New Guinea, and they're still serving faithfully. We didn't have the biggest stage to invite all of you, but at least we have your representative. But on behalf of brothers and sisters in Papua New Guinea, we would like to thank you for the hard work you did here in this country. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the program, otherwise our time is running. But we'll start with Brother Kega.
Well, as the people mentioned, this seems like a boys' club, but sisters also have a big part to play in the truth spreading. we'd like to show an archived video of a sister who helped with the work here in PNG. It's Anita Davison, and many of you know the tremendous work she and her husband John Davison did when they were in PNG. Let's look at a little archived video of their work when we started PNG.
To go to New Guinea. We couldn't go in as a missionary. We had to get a job. So John, of course, always said you must never refuse an assignment. That was his motto. And about 2 weeks later, we were on the plane, saying goodbye to everybody, so we won't see you now till after Armageddon. And away we went.
They were absolutely trailblazers in the true sense of the word. There were no roads anywhere. When you approached a river, typically the only way you could get across, there was no bridge per se, but just a big lock. And often this lock was covered in moss and slime and spray.
The source of the opposition in Papua New Guinea was basically twofold: the returned servicemen and the ministers of religion. When you think of the returned servicemen and their opposition, the war was still fresh in their minds, World War II, and many had settled in Papua New Guinea, and so they were opposed to Jehovah's Witnesses who had been neutral during the war.
They soon realised, because we didn't drink their whiskey and things and we didn't smoke, they tipped who we were, and that's when the persecution really started. They forbade many people from bringing food to us that we could buy, like vegetables, fruit, fish, things like that we really needed. And my husband had to go to work in that terrific heat. It was nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit. 3 weeks later, I got this first violent attack of malaria. Very ill. Some said, if you don't take her back to Australia, she might die.
They were positive in the face of challenges. They didn't complain or let it daunt them. They found a way around it. And they have an extraordinary love for people.
John Cuthbert had come up then, and he and John got the idea of using a blackboard and just drawing some stick men on it and a few scriptures and having like a little sermon. So John found a big piece of plank and he had some chalk. So he drew these stick men and different little scenes, and that was like the first sermon. And so we would teach that to the boys that would come over at night. After a while we had like a little congregation formed. We were sent to Redan, about 30 miles up the coast. We started studying in a village. We could see the priest. He had what we call bonbon, and setting fire to the villagers because they all had to run away.
Now those interested folk had their houses burnt down, but there was an interested person by the name of Woodin in the village of Babudi that said, come to my land and you can build your houses there. So rather than being driven out of the area, Babudi became a real centre for theocratic worship.
John and Lena purchased that land and paid the taxes on it for years so the brothers could have a place of worship.
Lena and Davison purchased our land, and that land, now we used to have our district convention and second assembly and special day assembly.
For many years we were with them on the travelling work, and I remember thinking, well, what a good example they are, because they weren't young and yet they still walked up mountains.
Well, Jehovah was always there. He didn't take our struggles away, of course. And really, looking back, I think to myself, I would have liked to miss one of those challenges because they do help you to endure another one that's bound to come in the future.
Fine examples of ones that help the truth in this country to grow. And many such wives who put all the self-sacrifice in coming here to PAG to help their husbands also in furthering peace in this country. What a wonderful example there. And many married brothers here sitting on the platform today, their wives have been a great support in spreading the good news of the kingdom here, as well as many others who contributed to this work. So we appreciate their hard work very much.
As you have heard, maybe in the yearbook and other books about Papua New Guinea, there are about 800 languages spoken in this country. So it's very difficult to preach the good news to people, because you have to learn a language and bring the truth into their areas. But we have been using two major languages, Tok Pisin, Hirimoto, and Piumotu. These languages, just three, or the main one, Fiji, trying our best to take it right into many different difficult areas to bring Jehovah's message to those areas. So during this interview, you will notice his brothers have tried hard using learning a language, and then they were able to help many people come into the truth. We'll start with Brother Awak Luwun. There's three of these brothers, Brother Awak, Brother Don Fielder, Brother Jimmy Smith. They're former branch committee members, but they're still serving full-time service. And we thank you for their hard work. And we asked Brother Awak, he can tell us a little story about how Tok Pisin language became so wide, and now we use in Tok Pisin, many congregations are formed in many parts of Papua New Guinea. Brother Awak, can you explain a little bit of that story?
I'd just like to follow on from Mama Luna, Sister Lina. Our pidgin, they both, Brother John and Sister Lina, would sit under the TV lamp or the hurricane lamp to translate the pidgin from English to pidgin language, the publications, the first watchtower that came out. And then the printing was done, and that's how the pidgin language was translated into publications that we have now. And it wasn't an easy task. It was a lot of work being done. They spent a lot of time listening to local people speaking pidgin. And that's how they grasped the pronunciation of the language and how local people would speak. And then they started translating the first watchtower. And then later, other publications followed by the translations that we have now.
Very good, thank you. And what about the group? How was it formed?
I'd like to also add on to what Sister Lina said. The truth was started in 1957 in Rabaul. And then after Rabaul, it moved. Later went to Medang in early 60s, and the group was started in Medang. And to build the congregation and the groups that being started, the first special pioneers who have learned the truth in Rabaul were sent to Madrid. I'd like to mention a few names. Brother Sangha is here, Michael Sangha was one of them, Brother Laboy, Brother Tamol, Brother Patmos, and they were the first special pioneers sent to Madrid to build the truth that was established. And then it spread from there. And then in the mid-60s, at the same time, the congregations and groups started in Rabaul, in Lay, Goroka, Manus, Wewak, and that's how the truth spread throughout New Guinea. Later in the 70s was in West Liberton, that the group was there, and that's how in Mount Target and up in the highlands. That's how the groups and the congregations started, and followed by the society used the brothers from Australia as special pioneers, accompanying the local Papua New Guinean special pioneers, sent them into isolated areas where the congregations and group was established. And surely that's how the good news of the kingdom spread in the north side. That was known as New Guinea, and later to Bougainville, now known as North Solomon.
Very good, thank you. And the brothers did very well. Now there are many congregations around the country with preaching taking off. Very good. Thank you, Brother Howard.
Some of the only ones that started out to work here, Brother Don Fielder and his family, we'd like to ask Brother Don Fielder, if you travel up to PNG with your family, what year did you come up here?
My wife and I came from Melbourne back in 1953 to serve where the need was great in Papua New Guinea. We were just married and we're looking forward to a new assignment. When we arrived here, we were assigned to Hanalmona village. At that time, in all of Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, there were only 5 publishers: Brother Tom Kitto, Sister Romeo Kitto, Brother Alf Green, and my wife Shirley, and myself. And it was a daunting thing to us when we saw all the languages. So we got to work, first thing to learn a language, and then present the truth to the ones in Hanalmona village. And a number of families there listened to the truth, had good hearts, and eventually we had some congregations there. In 1956, we showed the New World Society in Action, the film that showed the Society's hard work in preparing information for other brothers all over the world. We had 300 in attendance. We didn't have a generator, so we got 2 of our cars, my car and Brother Tom Kiddo's, and we hooked up the batteries, got the cars running, and got power to run the generator. And 300 odd people came along, and some of those are in the truth here today. And I know one was sitting here on the stage with me that saw that way back in 1956. Afterwards, we were assigned to Hula village, about 100 miles along the coast. I was assigned as a special pioneer, and I had a daughter, 2.5 years old, Debbie, and my wife. And I went down and built a little house on a block that somebody lent me next to the village, and we started pioneering. And when we were pioneering, we worked a circuit of about 12 kilometres. There were no roads, not real roads. We walked, and my wife and I took turns carrying my daughter. It was quite daunting, but we had to survive. It was difficult in those days. And we would place literature for a bunch of bananas or an egg or a chicken. And we used the book From Paradise Lost to Paradise Regained. I would sit down with a little portable typewriter and type out some of the paragraphs from the English into the Hula language. That was a new language we had to learn. And that had a very good effect. We had 3 or 4 families started to listen to the truth, and then they wanted to publish. And one of the ones that was ready to publish came along to our house, and he didn't have suitable clothing to go witnessing. So my wife took a curtain down off our little shack. It was bright yellow and it had light red flowers on it. And he wrapped that around himself as a rami or a dress, and he looked quite smart. But he did say to us, he came up to us and said, "Don't go past my village. Can we witness somewhere else? Otherwise they'll think I'm looking for a new wife." It was very solid work. There was no supermarkets, nowhere to get food, so I would go at night time with some of the other brothers, more interested ones, and we would fish, spear fish, in the river estuary not far from where we were living, and that would be our breakfast for the next morning. And so it was not so easy.
So many challenges there to get the work done. Appreciate the sacrifice in behalf of
the main problem when we came to Papua New Guinea, like all people coming from another country, was language, understanding the manner of life of people that lived there, their customary way of life. We wanted to present the truth to them, so we had to learn languages, and that was not easy. We struggled over the years learning the various languages where we were assigned, and I can only say that the Jehovah really moved the right-hearted ones to come and listen to what we were saying. I'm sure that they found it very difficult to understand what we were talking about in the beginning. And they had much patience and long suffering, and they put up with us for 2 or 3 years while we struggled with the language. And it was really a privilege and very humbling to be used in such a way. Really, it was Jehovah moved the people. It wasn't any smartness on our part that accomplished the ones coming into the truth. So many different things. The other thing was isolation. When pioneers there, not myself only, but all the other pioneers and later missionaries, when they came, they had to put up with isolation and nowhere that they could go and talk with someone in their own language. So that was a real difficulty. And the brothers that were assigned, hurting ourselves, we put our heads down, and we can only say that it was Jehovah's Spirit and power that motivated people to come into the truth. We had a grand privilege to be